Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining our conversation, our continued conversation around grief. Today, we're talking about the stage of grief that a lot of us don't like, the stage of grief that I think a lot of us miss or want to bypass or want to hurry our way through, and that's the stage of acceptance. We have denial, see if I can remember, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And there's a very good reason why acceptance is part of the grief cycle. And if there's anything that you hear today, my own personal continued awareness as I experience grief and the cyclical nature of grief, recently, this reminder that acceptance is also cyclical. Sometimes we want it to be a one and done with well, all of it, but especially acceptance. And sometimes I have found myself approaching acceptance like a one and done, like, okay, accept, put a period at the end of it, and not so much remembering that this stage of grief, acceptance, is also cyclical. It is not linear. It's one that I think feels really heavy. And again, we want it to be final. It is probably on the opposite side, one of the most freeing stages when we really understand what this really is. So, wherever you are at in your journey, I am not sure how much we validated this in the last few episodes that we've done on this, Alana, but if you have not read the book On Grief and Grieving by David Kessler and Elisabeth Kübler-Ross, it is a book on grief through death. What I think we want to validate is, and why we talk about grief so much, why we're taking so many episodes to talk about grief, is that the relationship that you thought you had did die. And in many aspects, needs to die. A lot of parts of that relationship do need to shed and die, and we need to grieve it. We're talking about grief because there is so much loss associated with what each of you have been through. And I just want to continue over and over and over and over, validate. I think is so much invalidation. The longer I do this work, Alana, and the more I meet with clients, the more they share their experience with family, friends in their own world outside of listening to us, there's so much that gets invalidated around their experience. So I just feel called to say that your loss, and David Kessler actually says this, your loss is the greatest loss.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, whatever you're coming today to this conversation, to this episode, feeling loss around the aspect, there's no little, there's no big, it's yours and it matters. I want to hold space for that. It matters. And acceptance is not approval. So I'm going to say that right out of the gate. We're just talked about that before. This isn't about learning how to approve of what you have been through or what has happened to you that you didn't ask for, that you didn't seek, that you didn't choose. Acceptance as it relates to the grief cycle, and as we talk about the principle of it, can actually be the most empowering moment, because it is when you stop waiting for the past to change. You can start deciding what you want to do next, what that next right step is for you just right now. So we're going to go through the acceptance piece of grief and its cyclical nature today.
It's interesting as I'm listening to you talk. And I mentioned this at the end of the last episode of like, my brain loves acceptance. I'm like, yeah, give me acceptance. But what I love is the outcome of it. And
Mhm.
what I want to do is I want to bypass the struggle and the battle of working through acceptance. So like, I want the
It's
reward of acceptance, but I don't want all of the challenge of working through that. And so
Mhm.
it's interesting because where you're like, yeah, a lot of people don't like acceptance. I'm like, I love acceptance. What are you talking about? But you really helped me understand of this is honestly what my brain wants to do in a lot of situations is I want to just jump ahead and get to the outcome of where it feels good. And that's a very human brain thing to do. And I can recognize that and pull myself back and do my work. But just recognizing, yeah, there is a reward at the end of when you can really get to this place of owning it and leaning into it. But you don't get that without really coming into reality. And
Mhm.
I don't think there's a coming into reality through this experience that isn't unfortunately pain-filled.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, because the reality is what we don't want to see, what we didn't expect, what we didn't ask for, what we didn't choose. It's a paradox for sure. I was just telling a client as she's navigating grief, I said, "How do you feel like you're processing this? Where do you think you're on?" And she's like, "Well, I see it." And as she said that, I had this visual, and I can so relate to this where we're walking down the road and grief is standing over there, and we're like, "Yeah, I see you, but I'm walking away from you." I'm not walking towards you, but really to really embody the principle of acceptance as the way I've experienced and see it, there's a walking towards it that needs to happen. And oftentimes when we're in the grief, it's this, yeah, I see it over there. I'm not ignoring it. I know it's there, but we're annoyed. We're observing it from a distance. It's a different experience, truly embodied when you are walking towards it, to look at it, to see it, to visit with it, to feel it. I'm just going to hold space for those of you that are like, ugh, because it really is. It takes it to the next level. You can walk next to it and observe it for a time. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think with this principle that we're talking about today and why I think it gets missed is just that visual right there, is because we often just want to walk alongside it, not towards it to really see what it is. So, first, what acceptance is not, like I said, it is not approval. It's not approving what happened and saying that it's okay that that happened. It's not saying that the harm wasn't real and that you deserved it. You did not deserve this. And it's not even giving up hope or letting them off the hook. Get those narratives out of the way. That is not what this means when we're talking about acceptance. It is facing what is, like you said, Alana, reality, what is true, the facts, so that you can stop being in that limbo cognitive dissonance space. It is letting go of the illusion that the past can somehow be rewritten or undone. Ooh, that's a tough one. That was a tough one for me. I want it. There's the bargaining, right? Well, what if I did this? And maybe if I did this, and maybe if he did this, we can get stuck there. Acceptance is making space for truth with reality, healing, and then, of course, agency.
Mm. And I'll just add to that too. Like, yes, a lot of it is focused on the past, but also it's the acceptance of what is reality today and the reality that we actually can't control the future and we don't know what the future is.
Ooh,
That's
so
another piece of acceptance because I see partners, I have done this, I struggle with this, of this. I am very skilled and efficient in my life of making sure a lot of things come together and happen. This trying to control my future, trying to influence other people into making certain choices and lead them in certain directions. And all of those type of behaviors and me trying to protect the future I want at some level isn't allowing the acceptance of truly what is today and the acceptance of the future is not mine to control. And I say that, and there's other parts of me, like the self help book parts of me, of like, what are you talking about, girl? We can totally control our future. Like, yes, yes, I and you are empowered to make choices that impact our future. When I am trying to make an exact future happen, or I am trying to turn people into the way that I need them and want them to be, I actually don't have power there. And it's a false sense of control. And it pulls me out of reality of my future and it pulls me out of reality of today.
yeah, what you're saying there, I see two different things. It's this trying to control the relationship and the other person in it versus myself and decide for myself how I want to show up in the future individually and just shifting that power. And I too can absolutely see myself doing that in so many different ways in my life, but especially going through betrayal and looking at this person in front of me and wanting so and seeing so clearly, like, if you really would just this, oh my gosh, like it would make a difference and you're not wrong. Can I just say that? You're not wrong. My betrayed partners, when they say this to me, I'm like, you're not wrong. You see it. You see it because you're doing the work, because you have a fully functioning brain. Like, you're not wrong. And they have to see it for themselves. And this is that acceptance part that The other human in this relationship has to see it, believe it, want it, choose it. And your ability to make something happen over there on their side of the street, you don't have power over there long term significantly in the way that we're looking for, truly looking for. So this is a tough one. And this is where I see a lot of partners get stuck, is accepting that they really can't control that side of the street because of what it means, right? Because then that means what? And that's why you need to work with your professional to help unpack a lot of those meanings and beliefs.
This a sticky part of what you're saying, and you alluded to this, but I really want to slow this down, is we can have temporary results that can last for years, but they're still temporary. So
Mm.
we can create all of the boundaries that say your recovery, you need to do this and this and this and this and this. And they do all of the things, and they do it for a season, which can last 1 year, 2 years, or 10 years. But if it's not them actually choosing what's in their value systems, if it's not them actually leaning in and doing their own work to know how they want to do recovery, it will crumble with time. It
Mhm.
has to be their own work. And so I really highlight the need to step into our own power, the need to come to this place of acceptance of reality and letting that other person truly discover for themselves, because our results can feel very long term, like it's working, but there's no foundation or rebar in that.
Yeah. You just said something there. There's a couple things that came to mind with accepting some of the realities. One of those realities that is really hard to accept is that your healing is not dependent on whether or not they fully understand what they have done, what they're doing, and the pain that they have caused.
I feel like you need to say that again because that's going to take.
Let me see if I can say that again. So,
No, no, you said it good. I'm just saying it's that impactful.
yeah, well, I don't, and I can't repeat it. You'll have to rewind it. But that's where I feel like the hang up is, because I know that I would feel better if they, whatever that is. But what I want you all to know, you partners, is that your healing not only doesn't depend on whether or not they fully understand and validate and acknowledge and heal, it can't. It
Okay.
can't depend on it.
Okay. Yes. And all of you listening, like, rewind that and hear that. Yes. And that's a separate healing of the relational healing. And that's a separate healing of your partner's healing. So there's three separate healings here. There's your healing, there's their healing, and then there's the relationship healing. If you want the relational healing, you do have to get to a place where you can grieve together, where we can start a new relationship, where we can get rid of the old, where we can see each other's pain. Okay. So we're not discounting that, but we're putting that very separately from your own healing. I just really want to highlight that there's a difference in those. And you can heal no matter where they are or what they're doing.
Mhm.
That being said, if you stay in an environment that's constantly traumatizing you and injuring you, that's going to make it pretty hard to heal. But that's another
Yeah.
podcast episode for
Yeah.
another day.
Yeah. The reason why this is really challenging for betrayed partners is because of that disorienting truth. And that's kind of what you were saying there, Alana. If you're staying in the relationship and there's continued harm happening and destructive behaviors happening that you don't know about, if truth, that bottom layer of that healing pyramid, is not foundational, then your reality is going to continue to be disoriented, which makes it hard to accept. And now we have a spinoff. And so this is why I really, really, really hope that all of you are working with a professional, because this can be hard for you to see those patterns. But I just want to, I guess, my brain wants to go off on a tangent on this one, and I'm trying to hold back. This is hard to accept when truth is still not being given. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So what do people do with that?
I want to go off so bad. I would say,
You saying that,
I
there's
know, I
people
know.
listening that's like, "Just tell us, and we want the
Right.
brain
Okay.
code."
This is where I see partners are like, I'm doing all of the things, right? Like, why am I still looping? Why am I still spinning? Why am I still feeling like I'm going in circles when logically they're doing all of the things they feel like they should be doing? And so when I have a client that shows up that way, I'm like, okay, well, let's listen to your body. And that's where I am just like honing in on their body because their body knows something that they cognitively don't know. When they don't have truth, it is so disorienting because it breaks your reality. If you feel like you're having a hard time accepting, it might mean that you still don't have truth. When you don't have any evidence, when you're in that space, we're like, well, he's saying he's doing all the things and it looks like he's doing all the things. This is where you have to get in your body, hold your boundaries, and believe your body first. You don't need all of this evidence yet. If your body is still feeling like there's something missing, you're looping, there's just a piece missing. I don't know. You don't know, but we just have to believe the body.
Yeah, I wanna talk about my experience with this,
Okay.
and people might not love my experience, but it's real, so I'm gonna go there. I spent years going like, "Yeah, my body is just like my autoimmune isn't quite like, I can't get that together," and feeling like my body was betraying me because everything looked like on the surface it made sense, like, why would my body just let go of what it needs to let go of? Like, okay, so what somatic healing do I need to do to untrap this thing that's in me? And just going through that and feeling pretty grounded and pretty regulated, but still just noticing my body was speaking up and finally getting to this place of just reality of me going, okay, my body is trying to tell me something and I don't know what it's trying to tell me other than it's trying to tell me that it's not okay. And I had to just hold that in my pocket for a long time. And so I didn't have proof of anything. I didn't have reason. Like I wasn't like going and searching through his phone and looking for all the pieces. And I was still living my life and still happy and still allowing good things to come in. And I still held close to me, close to my heart, that my body is telling me that something's not okay. And I'm not throwing that away, but I'm holding that till I have more information. And I had to hold that for a few years. And then when that information came out, then I could, through tears of gratitude, say, thank you, body. And you letting me know that and me being able to hold that and also carry me, doing what I needed to do to be able to still function and do well. Like your body does whatever it needs to do to best help you. So I could go, thank you, body. Thank you. And thank you, intuition. And thank you, all those pieces. And it's okay that I didn't have all of the answers because it wasn't time yet.
Yeah.
And so there may be seasons where it is just strictly you can honor it and know it and hold that close and be open to information, right? There wasn't like a bury my head in the sand, being open to information as it comes.
Mhm.
But I also didn't have to go into a hyper vigilant place of frantically going and looking and because that just makes me feel crazy and I wouldn't have found anything.
Right. Right. Well, I love that you gave that personal experience and made it a lot more tangible. So thank you for doing that. And then going back to what I said before, why acceptance is cyclical. You just laid that out really beautifully, where now that you have information to grieve, with accepting the reality of that information, acceptance is now at that, like now we can lean into that stage.
Mhm.
When I say acceptance is hard for betrayed partners when you don't have truth, that's not like you need to do something more to get that. I love that you slowed that down. It often won't come until we have truth and believe your body first, and the truth will come in some way, in some form, in some fashion. It just does. So I love, love, love how you made that so much more digestible and relatable. That's exactly what I was trying to convey in the very beginning of this cyclical idea of acceptance.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not, oh, shoot, you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it just doesn't come. That's why this grief and going through the cycle and the stages of grief isn't a one and done. It's not putting a period at the end of it. There is a lot of pieces to what each of you are experiencing. When you lean into this principle of acceptance and you walk towards it, and Alana, your example was so beautiful because you can return to your own sense of self trust. So that part where you're like, ah, thank you, body. I love these moments where my clients, you'll be like, my body was right. I knew it. I freaking knew it. Those are the most sacred moments for me to share with my clients because they're returning to that sense of self trust. It is so beautiful, so important when you can have those moments with acceptance.
I have this thought that I have sometimes of this like returning home. The home is to me.
Mm,
It's returning back home. It's recentering with me. It's returning to that inner self. And there's such a beauty in that. And I didn't know how to do it, all of this, before I really walked this journey, that like really coming into self. And it is one of the most beautiful gifts you can give yourself.
mm,
And grief, I want to swear here. And I'm like, okay, if you have little kids, okay, you can quote me on this. Grief is a bitch. Like, it's awful. Grief is really hard and it's really painful and it's beautiful and it's healing and it's cleansing and it's refining and it's building you into this beautiful, strong, grounded queen.
mm,
For men who are listening to this podcast, king, whatever works for you, it really, really has this beautiful gift that's waiting for you. And it's you who gets to choose to walk to it and then let it in and let it move through. Grief doesn't have to settle and live in you. It's something that we can let move. It's an energy that will move through you. And as you do that, there's so much healing and lightness that can come from that. So, thank you for hanging with us as we navigate this hard, challenging topic. Sending so much love to you as you do that, and strength and courage to face these hard things. And as always, thank you for hanging out with Amie and I this week. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Hey friends, it's Hallie Roderick here, and I wanted to personally invite you to an incredible opportunity coming up this summer. From July 8th to 11th, Luke Gordon and I will be co-facilitating a Help Her Heal intensive for men in Spanish Fork, Utah. And if you're a man who's serious about rebuilding trust, creating emotional safety, and doing the deep work of repair after betrayal, this space is created specifically for you. This 4-day intensive is not a lecture series. It's a deeply experiential process designed to help you feel the shift, not just understand it intellectually. Together, we'll explore powerful tools and practices to help you develop real empathy, shame resiliency, and a clear understanding of betrayal trauma so you can begin to show up as a safe, trustworthy partner again. You'll also have the opportunity to connect with other men who are on the same path, men also committed to growth, their integrity, doing the hard work, and the beautiful work of relationship repair. So, whether you're just beginning this process or you're well on your way, this intensive can be a powerful next step in your journey towards healing. So, if you're ready to move forward, we'd love to have you join us. So, to learn more or to reserve your spot, check out the show notes where you'll find a link to reach out to our office. So, let's do this work together. Hope to see you in Utah.